Hello and welcome for a little equipment review. If you remember, a few months ago I did a first impressions video about the Kase K6 kit and the Wolverine filters, which I purchased to replace my Lee filters for several reasons, which I'm going over in the video. Back then I already did a little comparison between the Lees and the Wolverines, and specifically I looked at color cast. And to just sum it up for you again, those filters and also the Lees didn't have a noticeable color cast, and only with Photoshop I was able to make some color cast visible, but it was not very much. And for a real shooting situation you won't notice any color cast with those filters. So since then I've now used the filters, and I had them on a trip to the Seychelles. I had them in the Alps, and I was basically photographing with them in any light and weather conditions. So I'm now able to give you a real review, how they performed in real world situations, and if I still like them or if I have some suggestions for improvement there. So first let's talk about color cast and if I would change my first assessment there. And I had those filters, I was shooting into the sun with the sun to the side. I was shooting colorful sunsets, sunrises, blue hour, I think everything in terms of color, and I never noticed any color cast, even when I did some more intense post-processing, which I do from time to time. There was really nothing to worry about, and so I'd say those filters are very good, as were, by the way, the Lees before. They also didn't introduce any color cast. And the filters hold up very nicely, and color cast is not a problem. The next thing I want to talk about is how they perform when you're taking photos with the sun in the frame, which if you look at my portfolio you see many of those. So I have the sun in the frame just before sunset or just after sunrise, and also sometimes I shoot a little later during the day where the sun has very intense brightness. And if you have this shooting situation, what happens usually, even if you're not using filters at all, you get some lens flares, and the Canon 60-35 lens is very good in terms of coping with those. So the lens flares are not too bad. And what happens usually if you add additional glass or filters in front of a lens, the lens flares that are already there can get worse, or if there are no lens flares at all, you suddenly get lens flares. And this was what I was really interested about. So how did those filters perform in terms of lens flares? And I have to say, also as with the color cast, they performed very good. I didn't get any additional lens flares, and also what's very important, since they are glass, so you don't get scratches on them, or at least I wasn't able to get scratches on them in the first month of using. And this is important because with my Lee filters, they were resin. I had some scratches, and scratches are the worst thing when it comes to lens flares. If you're shooting into the sun, this is where the light breaks differently, and which looks ugly in the photo. And the Kase filters are very good in terms of the coating, I'd say. And let's just continue to talk about the coating, which is maybe the thing I'm impressed the most. So I was shooting at the coast, and often I get waves coming in, and you get water splashes on the equipment, on the filters, and I usually have to wipe the filters. So I'm using this bamboo cloth here, which is very good, but with time it soaks. So the longer you shoot, the more you have to wipe your filters, the more wet it gets, and then you just have smears on the filters. With the Kase filters, what happens, I got a splash the first time. I was already preparing this cloth to wipe it, and as I looked at the filters, there were just little drops, so kind of a lotus effect, and I just had to blow them off. Didn't need a cloth at all, and continued shooting. And this was very nice, and I think especially if you're shooting a lot at the coast, those filters are very good. One thing which you could say I don't like that much is they're quite heavy. I think it's 80 grams for this filter, and my resin filters before were much lighter. And this is something to consider. If you have 4, 5 or 6 filters, this can add up. And yeah, for this reason, I think Kase already provides a solution now. They have the thinner version. It's just half the thickness nearly of those here. And by this, they reduce the weight, and they're much more suited if you're having many filters and do travel a lot. You can save a few 100 grams, I think. But yeah, for me, when I bought those, the thin filters weren't available, and yeah, it's not too bad. I just have 3 filters, though as you've seen in my other video, I use 2 GND filters, and then I have another ND filter, and that's it for me, so it's not too bad. But if you want to buy new filters, it's something to consider. There are the newer, thinner versions of those. So now let's talk about the filter kit. In the first impressions video, you already saw how it worked, the Kase 6 kit. You have this little adapter ring, and you basically screw the polarizer directly in front of it, and then the filter holder goes in front of that. And yeah, what was bothering me during my trips and also during my photo shoots was the screwing takes some time, and sometimes you don't get it right from the first time. And if the light's fleeting, this is not what you want. You don't want to fumble with the polarizer. And yeah, I was always considering, okay, do I need the polarizer, or maybe I don't need it. I didn't just switch it and looked how it changed the situation. I was always thinking, okay, is it worth the time spent? And yeah, this is not good. And you have this with all polarizers. You always have to screw and be very careful to screw it on correctly so it doesn't fall off afterwards, especially if you had the leaf filter I had, the big one. You really have to be careful, because I always thought, okay, if I don't screw it in correctly and it falls off, it's quite expensive. So this was some little critique I would have had about this Kase 6 kit, but fortunately, let's put this aside, Kase released this new one, the K8 kit, and I was able to get one from Kase Filters here in Germany for comparison. And yeah, what's the clue about this? Basically, it's very similar to the Kase 6. So you have the polarizer, it goes in front of this adapter ring, and then you have this new holder, which is a little lighter. But the good thing about the polarizer now is there's no more screwing. It's magnetic, so you just put it in front of this adapter and it just fits right in. And this is very nice. So switching polarizer now, it's just a matter of seconds. And yeah, then as before, you put the holder in front of it, and then you can put in your GND filters or ND filters. And if you want to remove the polarizer, the only thing you need to do, you remove the holder. And that's not too bad. You can remove it with the filters attached, and then you go in and just remove the polarizer again, and yeah, that's it. It's so great. I had it in the Alps, and I can't remember any shoot. So I'm taking photos for 8 years, and I can't remember any shoot where I switched polarizer on and off so many times, just because I wanted to see how it looked, and this was quite liberating. So maybe the best feature about this new K8 kit is the magnetic polarizer, and I wouldn't want to go without it anymore. Also with this kit you get this ability to have the slim filters, because they provide the thick slots, which I use for my thicker filters here, but they also provide the thin slots, which makes it even smaller. And also if you want to apply not only 2 but maybe 3 filters in front of a lens, having those thin slots lets you get more filters in front of the lens without vignetting. And this is something to consider. So it's not only the weight, it's also being able to put more filters in front of a lens without seeing any vignette. So this is quite nice, and for me it's not really needed, because I just use a maximum of 2 filters, so I don't worry about having any vignetting. So on this 1635 lens, if I use this kit here with polarizer and 2 thick filters at 16 millimeters, I don't have any vignette at all. So perfect for my purpose. And yeah, I'd say now I finally arrived at the perfect filter solution for me. Yeah, one final announcement maybe. Because I like those filters, I've reached out to Kase and I've now become a brand ambassador for Kase. What does that mean? It means just from time to time I might get some new filters, new equipment to test and also show you in some videos. So if there's something new, you might see it on my channel, and it also means that I can give feedback to Kase, which is quite nice, because if there's something I don't like or something which is not working, I can just pass this feedback on to Kase and maybe get an improvement there. And also if you have feedback, I can collect it and also pass it on, which is quite a nice opportunity. Also, don't worry, my reviews will stay honest. So I'm not liking those filters because I'm an ambassador now. It's the other way around. So I had those filters, I liked them a lot, and for this reason I've become an ambassador. There's one thing I forgot to mention. I asked Kase Germany if I could get some kind of discount code which I could give to you guys now, and I got a code which I'll display somewhere here, and the first 5 people who use this code to purchase something on their site will get 10% off their purchase. So I hope you liked the video, and if so, leave a thumbs up and also subscribe, and see you next time. Bye!